One of the best upgrades I've done to my Surron Lite BX is the controller. And for the controller, I'm using the Torp TC500. Torp offer two controllers for the Surron Lite BX, and they offer controllers for Talaria and the Surron Ultra B. For the Surron Ultra B, you've got the Torp TC1000, which is an upgraded version of the TC500, suited for the Ultra B, but can also be used on the Lite B. And for the Talaria MX4 and MX3, you can also buy the Torp TC500. For those of you who don't know what these things are, the best way I can explain it, and it's a weird explanation, but hear me out, you've got the battery, the controller, and the motor. The battery being the stomach of the bike, the controller being the brains of the bike, and the motor being the muscles of the bike. You've got the battery, which is the stomach, which holds the fuel to fuel everything else. So when the battery is full, that's when it's going to be at its best potential. When the battery is empty, you're going to have no power whatsoever. The controller is the brains that is telling everything else how to use that power that is taken from the battery, and the motor being the muscle, because that is the thing that is going to power and drive your Surron. If this is your first time hearing about the Torp TC500 or the Torp TC1000, in my eyes, it is definitely one of the best controllers on the market for the Surron or the Talaria. For a start, it's one of the more affordable options of controller for the bike. It's a plug and play system, so it's really easy to put it on the bike, get it set up, and get out riding as quick as possible. It's small, compact, light, and it's powerful. The Torp TC500 is a 1 kilogram unit, and it's covered up by this really nice shield. And one of the best things about the Torp controllers is it adds so much more power even to the stock battery of the bike. Normally for these power increases, you need to go and buy a bigger battery, but with the Torp TC500 and the Torp TC1000, it communicates to the stock batteries on the bike, allowing you to safely draw a lot more power out of the batteries without them being bypassed. When I got this controller back in September, I already thought the controller was amazing. I didn't really see any room for improvement. I already thought it was the best it could possibly be. But Torp are an amazing company who are always looking for ways to improve their products. They're always looking for ways to take that next step further to adding features to the bike. And even when you buy your Torp controller, that doesn't mean that you're stuck with the features that they give you. They're always looking for more features to add. The way that Torp adds these features to the bikes is through an update. So there will be a firmware update every so often when they've thought of new ideas, thought of improvements to make, thought of new features to add. This can all be done through the Torp app that you download when you install the controller. The Torp app is where you customize all of the bike's power levels. It even works as a dashboard, so when you're riding your bike, you have a live data page with a speedometer and a load more information about the bike to make sure it's running correctly. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the latest update that Torp has done to the bike, and we're going to be talking about all of the new features that Torp has added to the Surron Lite BX, the Surron Ultra B, and the Talaria MX3 and MX4. One of the first features that Torp has now added to their controller systems is a reverse gear. This can be activated while riding the bike through the Torp display. I might be wrong, but I think the Ultra B already had a reverse gear, but for the Talaria MX4 and MX3 and the Surron Lite BX, they did not have a reverse gear originally. So reverse gear has to be set up through the Torp app, so it is an option that you can have on or you can have off. You don't have to use reverse gear. This is the best thing about Torp. They've got so much customization in the app available that these features don't have to be used. They're there if you want them. So the way we activate the reverse gear is we go to the Torp display and we hold the down button, then you will see an R appear on the display, and that means you're in reverse. So if I hit the throttle, you'll see that the wheel actually spins backwards. So this is forwards, and then this is backwards. Not only has Torp added a reverse gear, but they've also added different levels to the reverse gear, so you can set the speed and you can set the phase amps, going up to 200 phase amps in reverse, and the speed can go up to near 20 mile an hour, which I don't think anybody's going to be using reverse at 20 mile an hour. I've got my reverse set at the lowest settings at the minute. I've never actually really had to use the reverse, but it will definitely be useful in some situations, which we'll talk about later in the video. Another new feature that Torp has added when using the Torp display is you can now have 3 power modes instead of 2. So before we had eco mode and we had sport mode. Now Torp has added a middle mode, which is called daily. Like mentioned, you have full customization through these power modes in the app, so you can set your eco, daily and sport to whatever power you like, whether it be full, medium or low power. For eco mode, I like to keep that as my power saving mode, so I have the settings set quite low. For daily, I use that as quite simply my daily mode, so when I'm cruising about, when I'm doing the majority of my riding, I'll stay in daily. And then for sport is where I have everything maxed out, so when I need the power, I need the speed, it's all there ready in sport mode. You can flick through each 3 modes on the Torp display like you would with the stock Surron sport and eco mode button, but on the Torp display there's a mode button. You simply press the mode button and that will flick between eco, daily and sport. Like mentioned in the introduction of this video, Torp offers stock battery communication, so Torp connects to the BMS of the battery, and on the app this will tell you loads of information about the battery. It will tell you a lot about the health of your battery, it will tell you if there's been any errors, it will tell you about the voltage, it will tell you about charge cycles. There's a lot of information that Torp can tell you about your battery through your battery management system, and this is all available to see on the Torp app. Torp have now updated the stock battery communication to reach further out to the Talaria bikes. This was already a huge selling point for the Torp TC500 controllers when they became available for the Surron Light BXs. It was one of the first controllers to safely draw more power from your battery without bypassing the battery and add a lot more power to the bike. The new update has made this available for the Talaria MX3 and the Talaria MX4. For the Surron Ultra B, which you'd have to use the TC1000 for, again, this was already a huge selling point. People who have gone and bought the Ultra B who were looking for more power could upgrade to the TC1000 and draw more power out of that big battery that it has to offer. With the Torp controllers, there is actually another mode called Surron mode, and from what I understand, Surron mode was made to limit the bike's powers right down to basically street legal level. By activating Surron mode, it would instantly decrease the power of the bike. It would basically lower the phase amps, which is going to lower your torque. It would lower the RPM, which is going to lower the speed, and it would make it a lot more suitable for riding on the roads where this would be legal. And before, the way you would activate Surron mode is on the Torp display. You would hold down the mode button for around 10 seconds, and then you would see that the mode went into Surron mode. Whereas now they've updated it so you can actually have this activated through the brake levers on the bike. To do this through the brake levers, I think you do need to have your stock brake levers on still because they've got the brake sensors in them. Once again, you can go into the app and you can customize the levels of power that Surron mode has to offer. This is great because in different countries there's going to be different road legalities to these bikes, so being able to change that power will make you get the most out of Surron mode that you possibly can while still being legal. Another one of the updated features is actually brake lever priority. Now, I tried to find out some information about this and actually struggled to find the correct information, but from what I understand, brake lever priority means you can press the brake levers without it cutting out the bike, mainly for the Ultra B and the Talaria MX4 and the MX3. I've been running the Torp controller for a while and the brake levers had never cut the power of the bike. For beginner riders, this would be quite a useful feature because when hitting the brakes, it would cut the power to the motor, which means you can't accidentally accelerate whilst using the brakes. And if in an emergency you go to hit the brakes, it will cut the power of the motor, so it'll probably be stopping the bike faster. One of the other cool features that comes available with the Torp TC500 controllers is field weakening. This is a customizable setting, again, through the app. Everything is controlled through the app or through the Torp display. The best way I can really describe field weakening is it's a power level that once it is turned up and it is put at a higher setting, this is going to give you a higher top speed. And the way this is done is it blocks a signal in the motor that allows the motor to actually spin faster once you get to your top speed. So when using field weakening, you will feel that you get to the top speed normally of the bike, and then there's like a second wind of power. So you'll get up to say 45 mile an hour, for example, the bike will be flattening off, you won't be gaining much more speed, then all of a sudden you get a second kick of power. That second wind of power isn't quite as torquey as when you're starting from 0 mile an hour going up to 20 mile an hour on the bike, but you definitely feel the increase of power, and this is what's going to give you a higher top speed. And in the latest update, when using the Torp TM25 motor, like I'm using on my Surron Light BX, or when using the Surron Ultra B motor or the Talaria MX4 motor, you can now put field weakening at a setting of 150 amps. Before, on the stock Surron motor, I could only use 100 amps, and it's the same for the Talaria MX3. You could only use 100 amps of field weakening, as using any more field weakening may have damaged these motors, but with the upgraded motors that can handle a lot more power, you need the higher field weakening to be reaching these top speeds. So like everything, there's pros and cons to these sorts of things. When you're using more field weakening on the bike, you will actually be decreasing range, and your motor will be getting at a hotter temperature. But with the Torp TM25 that can handle a hell of a lot more power than the stock motor ever could, I really don't think this is going to be a problem. Even with the most powerful bikes, you can run this motor at top speed for continuous time and you won't really get much above room temperature. We have actually looked at field weakening in some of my previous videos, and with the Torp TM25 motor now going to 150 amps, we will be looking at this in a future video when doing some more top speed tests with the stock battery and the Torp TM25 motor. And now for the last feature that Torp has added to the controllers is the controller doesn't need the Torp display to function. Like some of the other controllers available, you normally have to buy the controller which will come with the display. With the Torp controller, you actually buy the display differently. They are bringing out a new display, so you will have the option of 2 different displays. I definitely prefer the Torp display over the stock display that came on the Surron. It gives you more options to actually see what's happening with the live data of the bike. Like the app, the Torp display offers all the information that the app will, but through the display. So again, you can see the controller, motor and battery temperatures. It works as a speedo and obviously with the mode buttons, and then you can also do some sort of customization with the display on the bike, such as changing the temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit. You can also change it from kilometers an hour to miles per hour. Because the stock display has always worked with the Light BX and the TC500, this update is probably more for the Talaria users. I'm pretty sure with the Ultra B users as well that the stock display has always worked since they put out the Torp TC1000 for the Ultra B, but now they're offering these controllers to Talarias. They probably had to change a few things to make it so that the original Talaria stock display will function with either Torp controller that you decide to buy. So now we've talked about all the new features that Torp has added to the update from these controllers. I think it's time we get out on the bike and we start looking at a few of these features and how we can use them while out riding. So let's go for a ride. So let's get talking about some of these new features that Torp has added to the bike. And like mentioned earlier in the video, we now have 3 different modes to be using to have different settings of power. So like mentioned before, I've got my eco mode set at quite a low powered mode, and before I wasn't using any regen in eco or sport, but now I've got 3 modes. I actually have eco with a bit of regen, so when I need it I've got that regenerative braking. And then currently I'm in daily mode, and daily mode I've got set to still quite powerful, still slightly more powerful than a stock Surron, but it's not as powerful as full power. So daily mode is now my perfect average riding mode. This is where I keep my power at just a medium. It's going to be perfect for trails. It's enough power still to wheelie. It's got enough grunt and enough torque in the bike to still have a lot of fun. And then my sport mode we have set to full power. So for full power, everything is maxed out. Maximum motor current, maximum battery current. So we're running 8.6 kilowatts when we're in sport mode still. And it's so much nicer having those options available. Just even having that one extra option compared to eco and sport makes so much more of a difference. Before, when I had my bike set up in sport mode and everything maxed out, it's good because the bike is rapid and you're using all that power, but you do feel like your bike is actually dying quicker because of all the power you're using. So now having that extra mode and being able to keep my bike in daily mode will hopefully save me a bit of range. So a lot of the new features that have been involved in this update really were mainly for the Ultra B and to allow the bike to work with Talarias. Oh yo! Oh, we found some lovely little jump there. Put it into daily. Well, that wasn't as big as what I thought. I was expecting a nicer landing and I absolutely flew. Whoa, there's some rabbit holes about as well. So like I was saying, a lot of these new bits of updates are mainly for the Torp to work with the Talaria bikes now, which is obviously a big thing for Torp. They want their controller to be as versatile as possible for every bike. They were made originally for the light BXs, so a lot of the features were already made and planned for these bikes, but now they're trying to spread out to the bikes like the Talaria MX3 and the Talaria MX4. So while we're here, this will be a good place to test the reverse gear on the Surron. So like I showed you earlier in the video, if I hold the down button on the display, it should put me in reverse, and I'm not sure if it will show on camera, but we're actually on a bit of a downhill going this way. So if I hold the down button, got the R on the screen, and I should be able to hit the throttle, and that's just going to help us back up the hill. I'm literally putting no effort in whatsoever, and the bike is just reversing me back up. So this is what reverse is going to be useful for. That would be a lot of leg power before to try and get back up that, but with reverse, I'm now back at the top. Whoa, see, it picks up speed a bit when you actually are on the flat. So if I lift my feet up, hit reverse, we start going backwards. So some people might say that's a bit of a pointless feature, but to be honest, that's going to be really helpful if you're out on the tracks and trails or doing some downhill trails and you get to a point where you need to turn around or go back up the hill. You can use that reverse gear. And like I said before, I think the Ultra B already had a bit of a reverse gear. Woo! There's a few holes about. I think the Ultra B already had a reverse gear, and I know that a few of the other electric bikes available do. The Light B has never had a reverse gear until now, and I don't think the Talarias have had a reverse gear before. So this is where the forest begins. I'm told it's very technical in here, so we'll see how we get on. I'm just going to follow the boys. Lovely. Oh, this is nice already. This is perfect. Hang on. There we go. Oh, it is a bit techie with all these hills, isn't it? Oh, hello. Straight over. We're going to follow. Oh, it's a bit techie. Straight over the log. He said it was techie in here. It definitely is techie. Whoa. but I got the suspension for it. Let's go. Hey, we got a crasher.
Oh, no crasher.
Lovely. That was a cool little techie forest. I like that.
Oh, you ain't got a stand.
Hang on, let me use reverse mode to get back to you. Yeah, see, reverse coming in handy. This is why reverse is handy. I would have struggled pushing my bike back up that. I would have had to have got off, but you just hit the reverse button. So something else that's good about having the different power mode settings is you can have a different throttle setting for each one. So on the Torp controller as well, you can choose your throttle curve, whether it's aggressive or smooth. You've got loads of different options for throttles, and when you've got your eco, daily and sport mode, you can have different throttle settings for each one. So for my eco mode, I keep my throttle settings at quite smooth, and I always keep my throttle curve at 0. That's just a linear line on the graph, and that will literally just keep your throttle consistent all the way through. So the settings with the throttle curves, you'll have one setting where the graph will go up and level off, and you've got another setting where it will slowly gain more power. But I always like to keep my throttle curve at 0, which is just a straight line, keeps consistent power whilst on the throttle. And then on my daily mode, I like to also keep it at 0, throttle curve at 0, and I've just set the slider to slightly more aggressive. And then for sport mode, we keep it on fully aggressive, again 0 on the throttle curve. As well as the 3 different settings, it's nice to have different throttle levels, again depending where you're riding, what you're riding. Just gives you a lot more versatility to actually change and do things on the bike. Why in sport mode? No wonder I'm spinning up. I'd be better off in eco. Oh, I'm still spinning in eco. So one of the other things we were talking about was field weakening, and now I've got 150 amps of field weakening. So Jay, who has got the Torp controller with the stock Surron motor, he's still only pushing 100 amps at maximum of field weakening. The thing is with field weakening, it gives you more top speed and higher torque at top speed, but the bad things about field weakening is you get a hotter motor temperature and you actually get less range because you're using more battery current to spin the motor faster than it really should be spinning. And obviously, like I said earlier in the video, these things have pros and cons. Everybody loves a bit more top speed, but it's not the sort of thing you need to be using all the time. When I'm riding bits like this, I keep my field weakening at pretty much 0. There's no real reason to have field weakening on when you're riding things like this. I very, very rarely get a medium speed, let alone top speed, when I'm riding things like this. So the need for field weakening isn't really there. It's more if you were having a Surron for on-road use or commuting use, that's when you'd like a bit more of a top speed. Or again, if you're racing these bikes, the top speed would be lovely, and you'd be setting your field weakening probably right the way up to at least 90 on the stock motor, or on the Torp motor we've got 150 amps. You definitely need it set at about 120 amps to actually be using all of that top power and field weakening. With field weakening as well, it's sort of what your battery can handle. So I think with the stock battery on the stock motor, there's not a lot of point of really going above 75 amps. And I found this in a video before, and the reason for that is it can't draw the same power out of a stock battery. So with a bigger battery, you'll actually be using that field weakening more, and this is all stuff I'm going to be testing in future videos. We've still got a lot of tests to do on the Torp TM25 motor that I've not done yet. So this is all to come. If you're going to want to see this content, you're going to have to hit that subscribe button. We're not like Netflix, we're not like Amazon. It doesn't cost you any money to subscribe to the channel. It's completely free. All you need is a YouTube account. So if you're not already, go down and subscribe. If there is anything you want to see using the Torp TM25 motor, or any information you want to know about it, drop me a comments down below and I'll answer as much as I possibly can. But I'm still learning about this thing myself. I've still got a lot to learn about it and a lot to know about it, but the more we ride with it, the more you understand. So something I have noticed actually while I'm sat behind the Talaria about the Talaria is it doesn't need a longer rear mudguard. The Surrons, when you're riding things like this, especially when it's this wet, you need that longer mudguard to stop you getting absolutely caked and covered in just mud. On the Talaria, it's actually quite long already. Like, I wouldn't see the need for an extended one. And so if you're wondering about the differences between the Torp TC500 and the TC1000, like I said earlier in the video, both are usable on the Surron Lite BX. If you want to use one for the Ultra B, it's going to have to be the TC1000. That's probably because it's made for a bike that can chuck a lot more power at it. I know with the TC500 on a 72 volt battery on a stock motor, you can only really get, I think, about 17 if not 18 kilowatts maximum out of probably a big 72 volt battery. Whereas with the TM25 motor, the reason it's called the TM25 is because it's the Torp motor 25 kilowatts. That's why they call it the Torp TM25. So with me running a TC1000 and a 72 volt battery with the Torp motor, I would definitely be able to push 25 kilowatts. I'm not sure whether the TC500 can push that much power with the Torp motor. I would probably think it would be able to, but this is something again we're going to have to look at in the future when I do eventually, hopefully, get a 72 volt battery. We've got some catching up to do. Let's stick her into sport, hit the throttle and away we go. Oh, I forgot how it felt to wheelie in full power mode. I've been using daily mode so often recently with using the full 8.6 kilowatts. Oh, lovely bit of a hill climb. And it's actually dry. Oh, lovely. Oh, the bike feels so quick. What a day for it as well. I like his idea. Oh, there's puddles. Ah. Are you good, bro? Oh dear. Did you have a little loop?
Yeah, man.
Oh dear.
Straight on the back.
You're always going to have some damage to the plastics, aren't you?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Slow, but fucking. Oh. Bloody thing.
Oh, as long as you're all good, bro.
Oh yeah, son.
Lovely jubbly. So that's going to sum up this video here, people. If you have liked this video, make sure you're hitting that like button. If you want to know more about Torp Motors themselves, I'll leave the link down below in the description. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. I'm signing out. Peace.